You're listening to Rep Radio. Our goal is simple. We support, promote, engage, and inspire the arts community by igniting the ghost light that shines on the stages of the up-and-coming, the unsung heroes, the brilliant writers, and the dynamic designers. Our podcast breaks the fourth wall to give you an inside look at the plays and the players. Stay tuned. Rep Radio is on the air. Today on the podcast, Philadelphia Artist Collective, producing artistic director Damon Bonetti and artistic associate Eli Lynn stop in to talk about the fringe arts offering QvK, a classical clash of royal proportions. Here is my interview with Philadelphia Artist Collective for QvK. Stay tuned. Welcome to Rep Radio. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in the virtual studio, and I am here with the Philadelphia Artist Collective. And we have two representatives with us, and I will let them introduce themselves.
Well, hey everybody, I'm Damon Bonetti. I'm the producing artistic director of the PAC.
Hi, I'm Eli Lynn. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm an artistic associate at PAC.
And welcome to Rep Radio. It's great to have you both.
Thanks, Darnell. Thanks for having us.
So, 2021.
So,
how has 2021 been for the both of you?
Eli, you want to take this first?
I just had a moment where I had to go inside my brain and look at 2021 and be like, how much of my life has been 2021 at this point? 2021 has been, you know, all things considered, not terrible. Certainly an improvement over the previous year. So, yes, things are starting to move very, very gently in a lot of different places, and I'm starting to get a little bit involved with a lot more products, which really beats sitting at home watching Netflix all day. So far, 2021 has been an upward trajectory.
Yeah, there's only so much you can learn from the crafting of storytelling in Netflix before you know what, I got to get out into the world and start making things.
It did get me a lot more interested in film, though. So that has been, I guess, a blessing in disguise.
And how about you, Damon?
Yeah, I mean, 21 has sort of been kind of like the beginning of a tentative hope in terms of, you know, the work that we all do. The work that we all do coming back, which is live theater. And because I know you've been part of it, and you've been watching the amazing work that a lot of companies have done virtually, and how everyone has kind of, I mean, this sounds like old news, right? You know, this is like 2020 news that I'm talking about right now. Like, we're doing stuff on Zoom. What's Zoom anymore?
Didn't I see this movie?
Right. You know, we're doing a thing that's all brand new called live theater. So yeah, I mean, it's a thing of running a company, and we were talking right before we were about to air that for PAC in particular, it's been a year of changes. It's been a year of wonderful old faces stepping back from the company and new faces joining the company. Eli being one of them. And you mentioned, for those that hadn't seen it, we, it was the thing that we were all talking about, like for who we are as a company, that we didn't really want to do and now we say goodbye to, and now we welcome. So we wanted to do something that was really more in line with who we are. And so I don't know if there's a way to have the link, or, you can go to the PAC Facebook page or to our website and maybe
I'll put it on the website. I'm in charge of the website, so I have that power. I'll slap it on there.
There we go. So we did a kind of a fun video of saying goodbye to Dan and Charlotte, who both stepped back from the company, and elevating Taste Gagnères and welcoming Eli and Cassie Alexander. to the company.
That's great. There's been a lot of transition, and when I saw that video, I thought it was just a fun way, because everyone had made some transition, but everyone's not thinking about doing anything other than a press release, you know? So to put out, you know, a fun little video, it also shows you that the people who are running PAC are, you know, engaging and fun to be around and exciting, and these changes. And it was like a tease as well. So if you're watching it, you're going, oh, that's cute. And then it didn't even tell us the season. So now we still have to hang on. And you're like, so, okay, I know that was maybe a one-off, but you're going to have to do more videos. You're just going to have to.
I mean, honestly, like,
can't do the one and just leave us.
My favorite part of it is actually Daniel Kantz, who's a wonderful designer. He's a sound designer and a videographer that we used all through the pandemic, and a lot of companies use, who's super talented and super competent. And my favorite part of it is when everything goes shaky and we just blame Dan Kantz that this video sucks.
Dan Kantz is the reason any of it looks unified, because we all came in and we're like, what about, and then I come out from under the table, and Dan Kantz was like, okay, let's talk about how we set up shots.
Right. I'm going to show you what a storyboard is. Yeah, and you think you didn't need it because you just thought it was going to be a fun little back and forth, but it is a production just like theater. So we've come together today to start talking about fringe arts, and fringe arts is a sign of things getting back to normal. You know, the mindset of fringe is, I'm going to have to run to a bunch of different venues all over town, and they're going to be unconventional spaces, most of them. And, you know, it does make us think about what we've been on intermission for, as we are thinking about, can we get to all of these spaces? And so I imagine from the producing angle, because I'm doing a little myself, that, you know, there's a lot to think about. It's not just bringing a new piece to the stage. It's, you know, there's so much more in there that we ultimately have to think about now. But we're here today to talk about the PAC offering. And since it is written by Eli Lynn, I've got to let you tell us about it.
All right. Well, it's called QvK, and I won't elaborate on it too much, the title, because it contains mysteries. It is about 45 minutes long-ish. We haven't had a read-through. In my hopes, it's about 45 minutes long. It is sort of a way to link together. It stemmed from an idea that I think Damon and Cassie, the other artistic associate, had about having a competition to see who has the best canon in Shakespeare. Is it kings or is it queens? Who gets the best speeches, that sort of thing. And then we were talking, when we were talking about what did we want to do at our season, about, oh, wouldn't it be fun to have something that plays off of that theme? So I won't go into the depths of the storytelling about it, but suffice it to say, I ended up writing a play that allows kings and queens and perhaps other people, who knows, to demonstrate who has the best canon. It's Shakespearean and Shakespeare's contemporaries. So it's fun. There's some sword fighting, because what's the point of writing a play if there's not going to be sword fighting in it?
Yeah, if your signature is not there.
Right. If I don't get to choreograph a sword fight, I don't want to do it. And it's going to be outdoors. And I'm just really excited about what it will allow us to do. It's sort of a melange of all of our favorite things as a company. We were like, well, what sort of things do we like? Okay, how can we make those into a 45-minute play that we can do outdoors? Yeah, and it's going to be in the park right next to our offices, this little park called Bardascino Park that has a bocce ball court in it, which sort of made for this natural stage space, which was a very neat idea.
That's already, I mean, I'm already intrigued by it. I mean, just hearing how the concept came together. So it's interesting here because it's not necessarily starting from scratch. It's editing.
Yeah,
because
it's connected.
you already have so many moments to choose from.
Right.
So
It's
how do
about
you
one
begin that
third.
process?
About one third Shakespeare. We sort of discussed it. I sort of brought it up as like connective tissue. I sort of wrote all the connective tissue that gives us a reason for these people to be here and a reason for these people to be saying these bits of great literature, to be having this epic monologue smackdown. Um, yeah. It's just sort of the viscera, if you will, that I had to write. But Shakespeare did the heavy lifting.
To me, it kind of reminds me of a musical or a play with poetry, where you're using these moments to tell more of the story, to kind of get inside that particular character's head, to make more sense of what they're trying to say.
Sure, yeah, it's like a jukebox musical with Shakespeare. That's the only kind of jukebox musical I will accept.
Yeah.
We had the wrong title for this. It should have been Jukebox Shakespeare then.
No one would come to that.
Right.
I wouldn't go to that.
I don't know.
Jukebox Shakespeare.
All of a
Just throw
sudden,
it out
Darnell,
there, and then all the links point to QvK. Let's see what happens.
In Fringe 2022, Darnell's doing something called Jukebox Shakespeare. It's like, Darnell, where'd you get that from?
Where'd you get that idea?
Oh, and by the way, can you send me that interview? You know what? It's lost. I have no idea what happened to it. We lost the originals. Sorry. Okay, so for the listener who does not know what bocce ball is,
I can't explain it. Damon, you explain it. I don't know how it's played. You throw balls, I think.
You just assume, as being the resident Italian, that I would know this game.
100% is what I just said. Yes.
Bocce ball. It's kind of like it's like horseshoes in a way. Now the bocce ball enthusiasts are going to come after me, but it's like you get a set a set of balls, and then you throw them down.
You just got to say it, Dave.
You throw them down at one end. There's like a smaller ball that's like the target, I believe, and then kind of like in horseshoes or like cornhole, where you're trying to get it in a hole, you're trying to knock people out of the way. It's a similar kind of thing, except on this bocce ball court, and they're almost like cricket balls in a way, if you ever played cricket. And that's the game. And Bardascino Park actually has a league. So during the month now, through the next couple of weeks of September, there's actually a full-on league and championships, and we had to plan our show around the bocce ball championship league. So, which is kind of a fun thing that you do when you're working in a site that's not your own home.
And that league is hardcore. I hear.
They're there a lot. We looked at the calendar and I was like, surely bocce ball's out here like once a week. No, bocce ball is not fooling around.
Yeah.
Told to do. I had to think about where that park was, because I don't think I've ever seen the name. I've definitely been over there with some food I got from Italian market, and I've sat there, and I've even photographed there, and I was like, what is this? This is such an interesting spot.
Yeah,
and I never made the connection, because if you don't, the balls aren't there, the sticks aren't there.
Yeah, it's just like a sand pit, and then you're like, what is this for?
Yeah, and it's like, so many of the smaller parks in town, you don't think about the names. You just think about, there's a space where I can have lunch. But you were talking about producing earlier in Darnell, and talking about you're doing a little bit of producing in the Fringe right now. And for PAC, that is a company, for those that don't know, we've been around now over 10 years. We're a company that's kind of specializes in rare classical theater that works in site-specific locations, and has been over the past few years expanding what the canon of what those classics look like, and partnering with other theater companies like Teatro del Sol and Theater in the X and Theater Ariel and Philadelphia Asian Performing Artists to present these plays. So now coming back into live performance, it became a thing of like, well, how do we do this? And what do we do? And what's the thing that we do? And QvK, from the conversations that myself and Cassie and Eli had about this, is that we wanted to do something that was sort of like a love letter to live theater coming back. We wanted something that was fun, But we also wanted something that was a bit subversive in the same kind of way that without giving too much away, because we talk about this in just like in the blurb that we have, that it is fun, but just in the way that in political life, power corrupts. Power might ultimately corrupt our friends that we see do this show. And so something that starts off as really kind of fun and really kind of silly, all of a sudden it might take a turn. But we wanted to do this. We found out our offices are located in the church that's adjacent to the park. And when we first did like a little thing there, we had the doors open, and this lady from around the corner came over and it's like, "Are you the theater company?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're the theater company." And she's like, "My name is Carla, and I run the Friends of Bardascino Park. And we've been so excited to hear about this company coming into town." This was a couple of years ago. And so we've been talking with them about doing something, and then the pandemic hit, and then we couldn't do anything. And so this became a perfect thing of, we didn't want to do anything indoors. We wanted to do something that was outdoors. We wanted to do something that was short. We wanted to do something that was distanced, and something that the bocce ball court, it's fun and games, literally games, but it acts as a perfect kind of natural barrier between the performers and the audience for safety's sake. And we wanted to do something that people would enjoy coming to, that was kind of centrally located in terms of, it's right in the heart of I don't even call it South Philly. It's right in the heart of Philly, because it's 10th and Carpenter. And I don't really call that South Philly anymore. And it's something that like you can check out, because it's consistent. It runs for 3 weeks, almost every day, like 4 or 5 days a week at 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So if you can't hit the 4 o'clock one, and it's like you got that Fringe show that's happening over at Fringe Arts, and it's like, oh, perfect. I can go over down to Bardascino and check out this cool little awesome show full of awesome people, written by an awesome person.
Yeah. I mean, it's great that there is an accessible bocce ball court where you can tell this story, because I could also see it very fun in a theater, an unconventional theater, where you create that whole experience too. I think it would be so elevated to do that as well.
For next year it'll be QvK 2, the rematch.
Oh, wow.
That's really good.
Awesome.
Like a history play.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. And then in 4 years, you could say QvK goes to the Olympics.
Ooh.
It could go on forever. It could go on until everybody hates it.
or just, a grand tournament, the World Cup or something.
Sure.
Crazy.
Quidditch championship.
Yeah. So I'm definitely thinking, the producer in me is definitely thinking about all the elements of bringing this together. And can we talk a little bit about combat in a pandemic?
Always talk a little bit about combat.
Talk about this in a pandemic, through a pandemic lens. Does it change your process, or what is the process like of preparing combat in a piece? This
particular piece, where everybody is vaccinated, and the production itself is outdoors, so those things are both also helpful. When we rehearse indoors, we'll be masked, but for them, it doesn't really change very much in terms of how I think about the combat of the piece, because I sort of start from a place of, well, what is our context and what is our storytelling, and then build from there. And so, and there were no parts where we were going to rub faces, so it's not like I have to delete delete those parts. And some of the combat is swords, which naturally socially distances you. So, I to be honest, with the exception of, thinking about people will be in masks when we're rehearsing indoors, and so we'll want to make sure we're not working people so hard that they're sweating through their masks. The approach that I will take to the combat, I don't think will actually be any different than if we weren't in a pandemic. Yeah.
And so as I'm thinking about all these pieces, I'm so glad to see that there's so much work that we'll be able to experience during Fringe Arts. But I can't help but think about the uncertainty that everyone must have had as they were thinking about doing all of this. Participating in the Fringe is planning in advance, and there's so much you had to do ahead of time to make sure that things were good. And so how did that sort of factor into this, or would you have just been able to lift this and produce it somewhere else, at some other time frame?
I mean, we talked specifically about this, that we haven't announced like at the end of the video, we haven't announced the full season yet, and part of that is because we want to make sure that we want to get rights to certain things. We want to make sure that the spaces that we're going to be in are accessible, that they're also highly ventilated. So these are things that we want to get into place before we can announce stuff, because we don't have a home base to perform shows. Well, we have office and storage space and all that kind of, and that's great, and rehearsal space. But but we're reliant, like a lot of small companies, on renting the space itself to produce the show. But like for QvK, this was a show that we had talked about. Like, if something happened, this is not something that we think that we were going to. I'm going to use this word once. Pivot to online. It's just not. It's so, the way Eli has crafted this thing, it's such a great audience show. It's a kind of thing that, if you've seen a pack show, we always talk about. We always kind of hate when people say sit back and enjoy the show. We want you to sit back. We want you to be on the edge of your seat. We want you to be involved in what we're doing. And this play involves you automatically because it's so presentational, because we're involving you. Not that we're going to, get you up on stage to do magic tricks, but we're going to speak directly to the audience. And it was written
with the specific parameters of doing it live and outdoors and in this park and all of that. It was written specifically with that in mind. So this particular production was not one, like Damon said, I won't say the P word, but it was not one that we could have, and we knew from the jump, we would not do a Zoom version of this particular. We would have had to think of something else for the season.
Yeah, and that's a consideration for the rest of the season. Again, like, the reason why we haven't announced things yet is because we want to make sure we know exactly what we're doing. We have a weekly pack meeting where we discuss everything that we're up to. And one of the things we'll be talking about tomorrow in our meeting is the stuff that we're doing and the possibility, because of what's happening with Delta variant. All right, the stuff that we have planned right now, could we do this stuff online? Do we want to cancel some things that we haven't announced yet and make one bigger thing that could be an online thing? And then the question then becomes, well, we've gone through the year and a half of everyone doing these Zoom productions and then some productions that are like, super well filmed and stuff. It's like, well, what is the audience retention for watching something that's filmed theater again? We've kind of I feel like we've kind of come to the brink of, I don't know. I feel like we've kind of come to the brink of Zoom theater. You know what I mean? I feel like, especially with this tease of opening up and the ability to have live theater.
Yeah, I always say that the Zoom theater is like the Slim Fast of theater. Like, it'll get the job done, but like, there's only so much Slim Fast you can drink before you're like, I hate Slim Fast. All my friends are in it. So I feel like these things just starting to open up a little bit is like letting people drink shots of an actual milkshake, and if it at this point being like, and it's back to Slim Fast would be is a very might be necessary, but the feeling would not be one of great joy. But yeah, we have, as a company, we have planned A, B, C, D, E, F on into infinity, depending on what changes with the environment.
But that's the thing too, Eli, because as we were talking about, is that because of the great thing, the one great thing that did come from having these Zoom productions was the accessibility of it. That people that couldn't come to the theater, that people that were worried about COVID, or that just didn't have the ability to travel to see certain things, they were able to watch things. A lot of the things that we did do that were virtual this year, like for the one night things, were as well or even better attended than when we would do some things live. Granted, like, we weren't doing like full runs of things. We were doing one offs, two offs, and like 4 offs and stuff like that. But one of the things that I think won't go away is the ability, I think, of not just the larger companies, but the smaller companies to be able to have something that's streamed in addition to the live component. for the stuff that we have planned after QvK, was the idea of like, okay, well, if we're doing a stage reading, we could have like something that's like we could stream it as well, so people who couldn't get out can watch it. For our larger production that we're planning in the spring, the idea would be to film it in a way that is more not just like you're watching a filmed theater, but it's a little bit more, I don't know, a tiny bit more cinematic.
Mm-hmm. It's like it's like when a play becomes a screenplay. It is based on the play, but it's bigger because it's a different screen. And I would love to see the Zoom production retire and a hybrid form emerge. Something that's not necessarily the replacement of theater, but sort of a supplement or a complement. Something that would be really great to say, you saw us live, now see the virtual version of it from a totally different perspective. Maybe that camera is in a certain seat, in the theater.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that a lot of companies are starting to sort of push into a little bit. Like the Wilma has done several things that were filmed, but they were each one was filmed in a slightly different way, and you see other companies doing similar, like it's a live performance, but they're pushing into cinematic territory, but they're all trying new things. I think as a theatrical community, we're all sort of trying to figure out what that hybrid is, what works best artistically, what works best from a production standpoint. So I will be interested to see, in 10 years, to look back and be like, oh, what is this new thing that we developed in the midst of very difficult circumstances, and what is this new form that is like, yes, the hybrid form that we all now know and use. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Darnell.
I was going to say I would love to see an addition in the curtain speech and say, and hello to the viewers at home.
Well, it's interesting because a couple weeks ago I had lunch with the tremendous Forrest McClendon, who's an amazing actor. He's going to be on Broadway. He was on Broadway before, and now he's going back to Broadway in Thoughts of a Colored Man this coming fall. Hopefully, all goes well. But he was talking about something that I didn't realize, that there are certain universities that are offering BFAs in acting that are a BFA in acting in film, TV, commercial, and voiceover. That the theater component is left out. Because so much seems to be going into visual meeting, the visual medium of screen. And the thing I'm interested in is, like, I'm teaching a directing class this coming fall, and in the directing class, one of the projects that I think I want to have the students do is to direct something that's on screen, because I feel like everyone that's been doing theater that directed something on Zoom never did that before, and it's a talent that everyone had to learn. All of a sudden, everybody's working, trying to figure out Zoom or Google Meet and trying to figure out what's best, or how to use Final Cut, or are you using your your iMovie that you never used before on your computer. All these talents kind of developed out of necessity, and I don't think those talents are going away. I think those are things that just need to be developed and honed more.
Yeah. How does all this work with QLab?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you'll see some similarities too. It's like, well, there were some pieces that would do projections, or some sort of live element. Like I'm thinking of 1812's This Is the Week That Is, where they do the report from the lobby. And that's kind of a clever sort of live thing that we actually watch on the screen. And that's kind of fun. It's like there are elements of it, and we've always had it, but it did seem like there was a little bit of there's a purist kind of nature to this, where a lot of people really struggled to find a way to use this medium. But then there were a lot of people who really embraced it and said, you know what, I think I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't fault any company either way. Like I think some companies didn't produce anything, and I think that's fine, because your initial mission is like you produce theater that's live in front of people for that shared collective breath. And then the companies that went all in and then produce a lot of kind of cinematic theater, it's fantastic as well. Nothing beats though just being with people and sharing that story and sharing, and like I mentioned before, sharing that collective breath and being part of that thing that when you watch the Zoom thing, it's like, oh, it's the recording, and it's the same thing. When you go to see the show, it's like, did this happen the night that you were there, Darnell? Because I wasn't sure. Like the night that I was there, this bird flew into the show, and all of a sudden the actors used it. When you see theater, the things happen that never happened, and we all have stories about that night where this thing happened that never happened before, and that's the thing that make it so special.
Yeah, you can't. No matter how you do it, you can't do it without that live component. That's the part that makes it so valuable. But you know what? When you talk about everyone has this goal of accessibility, and so that's where it really comes in when you think about how you can be more accessible by making it available in these different means. But since we are talking about making the arts more accessible, I can't help but mention that this production is a free event. And was there a strong choice in that particularly? Like, what is the reason this is a free event and not we're coming out of a pandemic and need everything we can get from you kind of event?
I mean, I don't think at any point did anybody, I think from the jump we were like, and it will be free. I'd love to be like, because we're incredibly generous, but a big part of it is also like, we're outdoors in a park. So if people walk by, like, we're not going to tackle them and be like, don't look, you like, the fact that it's
although you could stage that. You could totally stage that. It would scare people. It would scare people from looking, because we've set it up in the beginning that somebody got hurt when they looked at the show.
So I think that was part of it also. If you're outdoors, unless you really have a way to, you're in a private location somewhere, people are going to walk by and look at it. And I think that's sort of what we were trying to cultivate anyway, was, we want people to walk by and be like, ooh, what's that cool thing? So free made sense from that point of view.
Yeah. And it is the thing that, like I mentioned before, that we wanted to sort of come back with a love letter to live performance. And then not only that, but it's the first time we're performing in this park, this Bardascino Park, which, we became, we got to know the people who run the park, that are friends of Bardascino. And then, we walk out the door of our place and we cross a tiny, tiny street and we're there. So it's something that we really wanted to do for the community, that we really kind of want to know a bit more. We want to know the people that we're going to be around every day. We're looking to sign a lease and say we're going to be there. So we're starting to know people here and there. But like this is for that community. And it's nice that it's in Fringe, because it's, as you know, it's the launching pad, has always been the launching pad for the season. And so, the fact that so many companies are producing in the Fringe and producing indoors or producing outdoors and finding ways to do it and finding ways to be accessible and finding ways to be safe, is a testament to the resilience of the people in town, a testament to the endurance of like feeling the need to still create art and wanting to do this for people. And also, like, I think for the audiences, we always sometimes think that the audiences are our friends, and they are, because like we want our friends to come see the show. But, there are audiences that, that don't do theater and have never done theater, but come because they love it and they appreciate it, or like whatever medium that they're going to see in the Fringe. And they've missed this. And I think it's a great thing that people are going to be able to come back and to do that thing that we did years ago of when you got the catalog and go, all right, okay, let me plan my day. So on like a Monday, I could do a 4:00 show, and then I have a Zoom session here, but then I can get Zoom sessions. Oh God!
And why is this show at 7:18?
Right? Why is it at 7:18? That's so fascinating. Where is this place? And like that's the thing about Fringe too. It's like the thing I loved, and like part of the reason why I formed a classical, like rare classical theater that does site-specific stuff, was I loved Fringe going to places that you never saw shows in. I was like, what's that mansion? What's that storefront? What's that weird park? What's happening over there?
In someone's living room, or you walk up to a loading dock and you're like, is it here? Oh, the map says it's here. Do I just walk? Where do I go?
And then it just begins. No,
and then it just
speech,
like
no
people come down from the trees behind you, and you're like, oh, it's here.
Yeah, like it just begins or it just ends, and then
they're happens? Using silks.
Yeah,
coming down from this tree.
Yeah, I mean, it's Fringe is a time where people go see shows in places that normally during the year they wouldn't go. I think it's a time when everyone feels more adventurous, and it's always a great way to start with adventure when you begin like your season. This mystery season of 21-22.
I always thought it'd be great if we could carry that energy of the Fringe and going to multiple shows in a day, if we can carry it throughout the year. And we do have festivals that pop up. We have Philly Theater Week and a bunch of other things. And so we kind of grab that energy again, sort of temporarily. And there's something about, you're right, this, it is the start. Fringe Arts is sort of the open to the theater season, or to the art season in general, because it's multidisciplinary. And I think this is a great way to introduce yourself to the community, the people who know you, the people who don't know you. And now you're in this space, and they can just walk up, or they can plan ahead and go. So that's great. So the byproduct of this production is accessibility to all.
Yeah, and it's a thing that this is we realized it after the fact, as we were looking through our production history, and we realized this is our 10th. This is the PAC's 10th Fringe show. So Fringe has been such an important part of who we are and what we produce, that it feels just like, I don't know, it has a really kind of like lovely symmetry that we're coming back and it's. We just finished our 10th anniversary season, and this is our 10th Fringe show. That was one of the reasons why we wanted to do it in the Fringe, was that, I think we've built a following of people that have just come to see our Fringe shows because they go, because there's certain companies that you go see that, Brian Sanders, always has a big Fringe show, and it's like, what's Sanders doing? What's this company doing? What's this company doing? And it's our hope over the 10 years that we kind of got into that conversation of like, oh, the Fringe is happening again. I wonder if PAC's going to be there. And so we wanted to make sure when you open up that catalog or click that button that PAC was there.
Yeah, I still think it's great how an unexpected event can turn into a positive for you. I'm thinking about the Fringe production that ended up in the window at the Seaport Museum. Yeah, was that the Sea Voyage?
That was Sea Voyage, yeah. Eli was in that one.
I was.
And it wasn't originally the plan to be in that space, right? Wasn't that a temporary?
It was Dan Hodge and I went over to the Seaport Museum because we had worked with the Seaport before, because we had produced Iphigenia at Aulis on board the cruiser Olympia. And so we went back to them saying we'd love to do something in the theater, because they have a massive theater there that holds like about 500 people. So we wanted to do something on the stage, kind of make it more intimate. And so we were in negotiations with them to like talk about, doing the theater. And while we were there, they mentioned, well, you could use this space over here for your dressing rooms. It's kind of like an open space. And we're like, what is this open space you talk of? And so they took us downstairs to, if you saw the show, Darnell, we saw that space. And we were both like, yes, this is where the show happens. And so, it was all open. So it was all glass windows kind of open.
Yeah, it would have been a very interesting dressing room set up.
Exactly, yeah.
No, right?
Need some pipe and drape in there.
Yeah.
If you do that.
The show before
the show before the show.
And it was great because you have the audience who plan to attend, and then everyone else is beyond the glass going, what's this? What's this? And now it's like a tease for them, but it's a full-on experience for us. I thought that was like a slam dunk you know, and it's very Fringe. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, it was fun. It's like, oh, we don't have the glass window barrier for
Yeah.
QvK, but I hope the same kind of thing happens where all of a sudden people stop.
Yeah.
Not that this is street performance, but in a sense it is. And I remember I have fond memories of seeing shows that would happen in like Montreal and the old city. And like all of a sudden, like walking along, and all of a sudden there's a massive amount of. I hope we have a massive amount of people, but seeing a bunch of people around a street performer, and I can't understand anything because I don't speak French. But like watching the performer and understanding everything that was happening because of their physicality and what they were doing, and the crowd enjoying it, and I just stumbled upon it, and that's maybe the hope that we have for this too, is that people stumble upon it and it's like, oh, I missed most of it. When are you doing this again? It's like, yeah, here's a postcard.
Yeah. I think it's great. How a theater company will kind of adopt a school and help educate a school, help teach the kids a little bit more about theater. And companies should adopt a park as well, and then find a way to produce something in the park. And this isn't a new idea, because we definitely have companies who primarily work in parks, but I feel like everyone should have a park. Every company should have a park that they're attached to, and they do something there that brings visibility to the park and also gets the word out there about the work that you do. Yeah, it's a true community event. I think it's a great idea. So how can our listeners support PAC at this time?
Come see the show. Absolutely, come to go to the Fringe website, go to PAC's website, and come see the show. Reserve a ticket. It is free, but sure, you could donate. Absolutely, you could donate. Because it goes to support an awesome bunch of artists doing really cool stuff. We do have other ways you can support us. We have a thing called a PAC Pass, which is the best theater deal in town. It's like $35, and you get to, for the things that we do charge money to, you get to bring friends for free. You get discounted tickets. There's like pre-show events. We're going to be doing help PAC pick a season kind of things, where we did a thing over the pandemic called the PACdemic, which was a book club. And what we're doing with it now is that we're taking it beyond the pandemic and making it a thing where PAC is a collective, and so everyone is a part of picking the season and a part of what we do. So we're doing a thing that Cassie is actually forefronting, where it's like everyone pick a couple plays that we really dig, and then PAC's going to read them, and then if you're a PAC Pass member, we're going to send you those plays, and then on certain nights we're going to discuss them, so you can be part of the discussion of PAC choosing future seasons. So like that's a cool thing to do, is to get a PAC Pass. But the reason why we do this, most importantly, is come see the shows.
That's great. Yeah, and we'll link to all of those things. Is there, I don't want to give away QvK, but is there anything else you want to say about it before we sign off?
It's going to be super fun. There's a little bit of audience participation. There's at least one sword fight. It's free. It's in a park. I don't know. What more do you possibly want from a Fringe show? I think it's going to be great. I'm really excited to craft it with all of these people.
There's also electric guitar music.
Ooh, there's electric guitar music.
Ooh.
Sacred bars. Listen, everything.
Come for the bocce ball. Stay for the sword fight and the guitar.
There you go.
Yes. So because Fringe Arts is a community, I'm going to put you on the spot here and ask you if you could recommend another Fringe show to our listeners.
My housemate has one that I think is in the Fringe. It's a production. It's an adaptation of Richard II that he does in our basement with just himself. playing all the characters in a corner of our basement. And so I have heard it many times, and it's really cool. It's a really cool sort of one-person adaptation, and it's also just really impressive from like the amount of text that he had to learn. So I think it's probably just called Richard II, but I can recommend that one because it takes place in my house.
I can recommend. I was over at Drexel, and I saw the space where Nicole Canuso Dance Company is going to be presenting their piece. I can't remember I don't remember the name of the piece, but it is a piece that's going to be kind of simulcast, where it's like it's at Drexel, but there's also an identical performance space, I think somewhere in South Philly, and there's only 2 audience members per show, one at Drexel and one in the space in South Philly. And I'm not sure how they interact. I'm not sure what exactly happens, but it's Nicole Canuso Dance Company, and there's a really wonderful visual component to it. There's some really great artists that are involved in creating that, and that looked fascinating when I was getting like a little bit of a tour by the incredible Robin Stamey and Peter Smith, who I ran into, and I was like, "Can I see what you're doing?" And yeah, it looks great. It looks really cool.
Well, that's great. I'm gonna do something different this year. We're gonna add some recommendations. So these will be linked. I'll find them, their official names, and we'll link them to this conversation. But I want to thank you both, Eli Lynn and Damon Bonetti. Eli is a writer of QvK, and this is a PAC Philadelphia Artists Collective production. It is on stage, which I'm saying in quotes, September 16th through October 3rd. And you can get information about that on the philaartistcollective.org website, or you can go to fringearts.com, and we will link those things as well to save you the time. But Eli, Damon, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about QvK and being my first Fringe Arts production coverage for the season. It's so happy to say this.
Yeah.
We're now talking about things we're going to go see in person. This is exciting. I can't wait to experience this and see what else this park has to offer.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Darnell. Thanks so much.
Rep Radio is an Emory production. You can find Rep Radio on social media at Rep Radio on Facebook, at Rep_Radio on Instagram and Twitter. For more information, visit us online at em3ry.com. Ride with us. Emory is on the move.